Hey guys, how you doing? We're doing a little cozy stream today. Weather's been a little bit cooler, kind of overcast. Thought it'd be a good idea to just kind of jump in, do a little bit of work on something I've been working on for a little bit, and just kind of run with that. And of course, we'll hit back the solo RPG stuff. Planning on Thursday, unless something comes up. So today I'm just kind of working on doing some more mapping of the world that we work on over on the blog, redragonfiend.com. So if you're interested in that, go check it out. We have a very long sort of world building series we've been doing. And this is part of it. So I'm taking sort of like the super all the way zoomed out map and zooming in a little bit, just as sort of a fun exercise and just to sort of, do something that's a little relaxing, but also a little productive at the same time. Rather than just, play video games or whatever. So I thought we'd do that a little bit. Just kind of hang out. So, like I said, it's going to be a pretty simple laid-back chat, so jump in the chat, we'll do some conversational stuff. But otherwise, I'm just going to kind of get started. We'll just go ahead and give a little overview of the map. So, you can see this is basically how far I've gotten so far. All the way down here, and I think I'm going to fill out the stuff down here at the bottom first. I think that's my plan, to sort of give me the guidelines so that way I will know where we need to be, and then I can just kind of focus on filling in all the spots in between. So just for instance, let me show you. So basically we are mapping this guy right here in more detail. So you can kind of see up at the top there. Hey, how are you? So up at the top there, you can see we're doing the same thing. We're just filling in the details of this map, right? Getting this little area of map into some deeper details and just hanging out and having some fun. But this is not the entirety of it. So what we can see is that this is actually just one of the continents. This is actually the smallest continent. We're just doing some mapping today, so that's all we're doing. So this is for, you could use it for any sort of tabletop role-playing game, but in general I've been using it for 5th edition D&D. But as you can see, so this is the smallest continent, and we're at the very edge of the map, and then we go over here. So this area right here, just to kind of give you a kind of scale of the map. So this sort of blue area in the middle right here, this little light blue streak, which is more sort of like an Micronesia, sort of Pacific Rim of Fire archipelago. It's very volcanic area. So that's what that looks like mapped all the way out. So the scale, we're jumping quite large in scale. Get in there. Yeah, it's really fun. It looks nice, but it does take quite a bit of work. So we're just kind of, dipping away at it. So to give you guys an idea of sort of the scale that we're looking at, if we go back to, we can look at, so looking at this, so this is the continent we're working on. So if we take that away and we're looking at, right, this is the representation of that. Each of these little hexes, each one of these little guys, they're here, in this area. Each hex here represents about 60 to 70 miles. So it's very, very much an Earth-like kind of size. It is very large. And we are mapping only sort of like the most significant rivers of it. Yeah, it is a very huge map, which is why I've kind of been putting off making the jump in scale, is because it's going to be a very, very long process. Fun. That's why I decided to do it today. It's very sort of relaxing kind of streams. Keep working on it. But it's got a lot going on. So, but let me pull this back over here so you guys can see. And can we go ahead and zoom all the way out? Can we do that? That's maybe a little bit too far on the zoom out. Get out of here. Going. There we go. So that's sort of the full map, just of everything, right? So we have basically 3 continents, and these 2 continents here share a a little touch right there. It's sort of like the Arabian Peninsula sort of area between, sort of Africa and Eurasia. And then we're messing with the smallest continent way over here on the left. Let me go ahead and get it over here. Fold this. There we go. So we can kind of look at it. One more little zoom in. Or zoom out, sorry. There we go. Yeah, too far. That's too close. Too much detail. Too much detail there. There we go. That's closer to what we're looking for. Alright, there we go. That's sort of what we're looking for. So, yep, that's what we're working on today. It's gonna be a lot of fun, but it'll be a nice, slow little project we're working on. So, talking D&D, talking whatever. If you guys are interested in any conversation, or if you just want to, have this on in the background, just checking out, working on your own projects, I get it. I do that too. So, whatever makes you feel good today, because that's what we're doing on a nice little lazy Sunday, at least afternoon for me. I think the easiest thing that's going to be for me is I'm going to jump in here and keep doing the sort of outlining down here. So let's go ahead and get on with these next guys. And to do all this, I'm using a little web app called HexDML. It's a lot of fun. It's very useful. It's what I use for most of my hex mapping because it's free, and the other hex mapping software that's out there is a little pricey, and frankly a lot of it's kind of old. And I don't even know if it runs on Windows 11. I assume it does. I assume it's been patched, but you never really know with stuff like that. So let's go ahead and let's get some guys down here. We'll just keep setting up our little hex boundaries, and this shows us each of those big hexes on the other map, how they're going to shrink down when we zoom in to this next level of hexing. And then we'll go here, and here, and here. These right like that. Hopefully your guys' weekend is going alright. Hanging out, having a fun time. Had a busy week, so this is sort of just what I needed. Bit of a stressful week as well, with work stuff. But it is nice to just kind of sit down. Didn't have D&D today. Usually I have a D&D game during this time, but we had some other folks that are out of town on a trip, seeing some family, so we thought this would be a good opportunity to just kind of do a little stream, just hang out. Alright. Hold on. I gotta get over here. There we go. Keep holding. There we go. And there. And does this go over one more? No, it does not. Cool. Put our little pine trees in here, and I can talk a little bit about... So right now we're just strictly mapping the biomes for the most part. We're just talking about, what does the land actually look like? And we'll zoom in once I get these laid out, and we'll talk about the different sort of biomes, what we have going on. Alright, so I got this guy. Some more pine trees. Let's go ahead and do that. Okay. Ooh, some deep forest pine trees. Deeply wooded areas. And then some more pine trees. And then some deciduous trees. Yeah, those two. And there's that one. There's sort of blank, another one. And way over here, we're gonna have that deciduous tree. And of course, if you guys want to know, like, all the sort of stuff that goes back into setting up all this up and how we've gotten from a blank page of map to this point, that's all over on the blog, redragonfiend.com. Everything, if you go up to the top, there's a section that's sort of world building process posts. You can go through that and you can see everything we've worked on so far. And we done our sort of region mapping and kind of gone through that process. So now I'm just taking the abstract idea of the process and showing what that looks like on a very large scale. This one, oh, we need to make our little differences for our pine trees here. This light one. And then we got some Laurentian here, here. Oh, and we need the water. Got this nice big sort of water. Not sure if that's going to be fresh water or salt water. Probably fresh water. I mean, it's relatively large. It could be a lake or a sea. It depends, or an inland sea. I would probably go with, considering the area that it's in, it's probably going to be fresh water because it's going to be mostly sort of glacial and snow precipitation melt. So, probably, for the most part, that. Alright, perfect. Then we have to go down, and then we're starting to enter. What we gotta add us a few more hexes on the left. Let's go over here. Let's add some more hexes. Okay. Just a little bit more room to work with on the left over here. So sort of do our. Oh, I should have added some below as well. We're gonna need quite a few more. We got a few more rows going on down there. Alright, so after that, we've got this guy over here. Up, up, up. Perfect. And this goes all the way across, and then we're gonna have a nice gulf or bay. Probably a gulf, considering the size. And that's gonna go right here. Perfect. As you can see, it's just kind of a slow process doing it by hand, but that's alright. Focus on hanging out, doing some very, very simple stuff. And have a nice, relaxing end to the weekend. Alright, down here we've got some mountains. What do you guys have going on this weekend? Anything fun? Oh, we got some forested mountains. It's gonna be sort of a low mountain. We have some wetlands back in here. Which, frankly, I'll probably need. Well, should those be swamps? Almost entirely surrounded, but they are. We'll figure that out later. And some more pine guys. Some more evergreens. Greens, then we have our bay, our gulf. Done and done. Need to add some color to these guys. This one's got a little color differentiation, and that one goes the other side of the gulf. This guy right there. No problems. Alright. That all looks good. One more row down. Now we're getting down towards the bottom. So I've got a little bit of a ways to go. So I'm not necessarily expecting to get this all done today in this stream. The work I've done before I did off stream, all the stuff up here. And it's pretty time consuming, not gonna lie. So I don't expect to get through all of this by any stretch, but I think we're going to make a pretty good dent in it. And then, if you guys like this, if you like this sort of type of stream, we'll bring it back. Do this, otherwise this will just be a little extra me time to enjoy. Something else. Let's see, that's where we are. Off of this guy. Form coming across here. There are some limitations with the HexML program, but they're the same limitations I find myself butting up against using when I was looking at other different options. And so that they don't give you a lot of leeway in the biomes to really get to the layer of detail that I really wanted to include with this sort of idea. Because one of the things that we do is that, and I say that because I'm working on it right now, is that, and we just have 4 of you, so that's good, is that there aren't really good just taiga biomes in the different ones that I've looked at. Or not taiga, tundra. I'm like, I don't know, it's a massive biome when it comes to Earth, so it seems a little weird not to have it. And we're gonna make this so they get a little light purple. Let's use this purple. But one thing I like about HexML is that it allows you can go in and change the background color of the symbols. Which, at least for me, is like, okay, now I know purple means tundra. Which makes it very easy. So it's sort of a jury-rig workaround, but you know, it works. Alright, we need some more. Gotta keep making some more. That's the wrong thing. Click on that. Give me more. I need more. We're doing pretty good. Let's see, we've got a layer here of just 2. Pretty simple. And I think we just have one more after this, right? Shoots as the bottom of our map for this continent, at least. Boom, boom, boom. Alright, perfect. So here we go. We've got this guy. I'll just fill him in right here because I'm already looking at him. And then those guys are just purple. It's just basic tundra. I believe this is the purple we were using. Just tundra plains. And then we need to change the background for our guy at the bottom because that is just ice cap. Okay. Full on. This guy down here at the bottom is just full on Antarctica mode. Oh, no problem. And that's it. Ooh. A little. How'd you get out here? This guy hanging out over here. Get out of here. We don't need you. I like your kind around here. There we go. So yeah, got a little bit of work. So I think what I was going to do is I'm going to start off doing the roles on the browser, and we're going to see for sort of filling these in, and we're going to see how annoyed I get at that. And if I get too annoyed at it, I've got some dice here. I'll just use these dice, which is less entertaining for you guys, but I think will probably be faster because I won't have to keep switching back and forth. So I guess at this point I could maybe bring them side by side. I could do that. We might do that. Yeah, you know what? I'm just going to assume that will probably be easier and do that. I think that will be easier. And then again, if I still get too annoyed, we just won't do that. Let's pull this out. There we go. Come on. Look at that. 3 and a 1. There we go. There we go. We can kind of use our guidelines to get around here. So one thing that I don't super love about HexML is that the sliders, the sidebar sliders, are so tiny. They're hard to sometimes grab a hold on. Especially this one at the bottom because I auto hide my taskbar. That kind of becomes a pain in the butt. But we got what we needed. Let's start off with and I will go ahead and show you kind of what we're working with. So here is the table. This is probably not going to mean a lot to you guys, but it means quite a bit to me. So we basically do a 2d6 roll for this biome, and that will help us basically determine, you know, from the center primary hex sort of distribution to kind of make things so it's not, you know, for every 400 miles in one direction, it's just one type of biome, which is not super realistic. But should also keep us from running into issues where, though I have had some issues a little bit. I shouldn't say they're issues. I have run into the occurrences where we do have some sort of light forest next to desert. And that is what I was going to talk about, which we can do. I guess we should do that while we're looking at this. So one of the things that's not on here, but we'll go over that later. So basically we have our heavy forest over here on the left, this sort of row. So when we talk about things getting more verdant, which means they get sort of more precipitation, they've got more greenery in them. So our sort of heavy forests, so we have tropical, temperate, and taiga or boreal, sort of evergreen forests. Then we have sort of normal forests, and then we have sort of dry forests. So those are forests that are not always necessarily, either through coverage or their ability to prosper during the year, it may get sort of too hot. There may be sort of a dry season, so they kind of die off during the middle of the hot season and the dry season. Or, you know, they may be sort of in a situation where they don't give us much precipitation, so it's more of a closer to sort of like 50% woodlands, 50% sort of open plains, and that's sort of our next column here. So these are all plains right there. And next to that, we have this orange row, and that is sort of chaparral or Mediterranean style. So this is where the grass kind of gives way to that sort of xeric shrubland. So you have very hardy things that are very dry shrubs, or you get it's not necessarily a desert, but if you want to think of it, something that's a little bit more akin to, if you watch a lot of, especially older cowboy movies when they show sort of California, because that's where most of them are shot, or Italy where they're also shot, especially the old ones, when you get the spaghetti westerns. That's sort of the area that we're in, right? It's sort of in between. It's got enough shrubland in it that it's not enough life in it that it's not really quite a desert, but it also doesn't have a ton of grass in it as well. It's a little bit too dry for grass, but it's not so dry as to be a full-on desert. And after that, we have actual deserts, and then we have sort of the same things, but we have them for hills. And then mountains over here at the end. And then, right, if things get too sort of verdant or they get more precipitation, we have things where these heavy forested areas become swamps. Or, in this case, you know, plains that get too wet, instead of turning necessarily into forest, they might turn into marshes, you know, fens and mires, and these are going to be sort of things like bogs and swamps. And then if they get wetter than that, then they're just water, right? And then for every time we want to cross a mountain, there's a 10% chance that mountain's going to be a volcano. And then if we're in a mountain-dominated biome, which we're gonna run across some of those. we've done a few already on the map, but we're going to run across more of those. And if we roll a mountain on our 2d6, which is a 2, so it doesn't come up that often, we get a snowy peak. And these are sort of our super large mountains where we run into things like Everest, K2, Matterhorn, those kind of places. Kilimanjaro. I guess Kilimanjaro technically counts as a volcano, doesn't it? But, anyways. So yeah, that's sort of what we're looking at. So we kind of have this 2d6 nice sort of normal distribution where things get wetter and things get drier, and then we have some hills and mountains, and then we have wetlands and water on the other side. And it's worked out pretty well, I think, so far. I think this worked out really well. I mean, we can kind of go up here and you guys can kind of take a look at it real quick. And it kind of helps that natural progression, right? We have a lot of sort of tropical things at the top. They kind of give way to some more plains and dry air. We have some hilled areas. And we see that this sort of tropical area, of course, gives way to our temperate areas, which we're working on the end of right now. So sort of these middle bands are sort of our temperate areas. And of course, there's some mountains over there on the left, you can see. And in fact, here is one of, make sure that I have the right thing selected. Here is one of those very tall mountains we talked about. And here's a volcano, and then we've got some rivers that we're tracking. We're tracking those sort of large, very important rivers in the world. We've got some those regions, so we're going to finish off sort of our temperate regions, then we're going to move on to sort of our polar regions, or Arctic regions. We're going to have more evergreen trees, and then those evergreen trees are going to give way to sort of tundra plains, as they do down here, and then that'll give way to just ice, right? To permafrost ice sheets down here at the bottom. Which is not super present on this continent, but one of our continents has quite a bit of that. Because in this sort of world, the way this map is sort of situated is that one of the continents actually is connected to sort of the polar ice cap. So unlike in our world where there's an Arctic Ocean that completely circumnavigates the globe, and then you have sort of the Arctic down, or I should say, at the bottom. This world doesn't have that. But it has a different sort of totally cold area at its other pole. That's set away. So, yeah, that's where we are. Oh, I should talk about Laurentian. I should do that because that's not on the little chart that I showed you guys. Because I wasn't sure if I was going to, when I was making it, if I was going to include that or not. So we have, maybe helpful. I can zoom in a little bit. We're not going to need all this scale quite. Zoom in a little bit. Since we're going to be working only with a few of these at a time. So let's see if I can find a good example. Yeah, here we go. So we can see here that this evergreen tree has a little lighter green than, this is the normal evergreen, this sort of green. Sort of our normal evergreen taiga boreal forest. And we have these guys up here, which have a lighter green, that have a green that's a lot closer to, over to the left, to this green, which is our deciduous. And that's to represent Laurentian biome, which is basically just how the dry, yellowy forest is sort of like a halfway point between forest and plains. This light green is basically a halfway point between evergreen trees, evergreen forests, and deciduous forests, or broadleaf forests. So it's just going to be, so you're going to get a nice mix of places that are going to, trees that are going to lose their leaves in the winter, and of course are going to have those wonderful fall colors of, gold and orange and red and brown. And others that are just going to stay green all year because they have, pine needles and things of that nature. They're evergreens. Not super frankly, it's not super important for our world building, but it is just a different type of pretty distinct biome, so I figured to go ahead and include it. It's not really going to change too much, and it's not going to make a lot more work for us, so why not add it? Alright, so let's start off, should I start off with a more complicated one or an easier one? Let's make it easy on myself. Let's start off with the easy one, because water can be a little bit weird. So instead, let's start over here on this west side, and we'll start here with this sort of Mediterranean chaparral coastal area. And so all we do is we go, okay, so we're starting off with this sort of orange, that chaparral is sort of our primary. Then we just roll our 2d6. Right, 8 means that it's going to stay that this place is that. Let's get our orange up, and that's our orange. Okay, boom. I'm just going to make this one nice and slow. Okay, so 5 actually means it's a little bit drier. So the next thing drier from chaparral is the desert, and you see where we run into. These occurrences are pretty rare, though, in all the mapping that I've done, is where you run up with a bit of a forest next to a bit of a desert. So originally it made me really want to change that, but as I thought about it, I was like, no, but remember that each of these sort of hexes themselves represent anywhere between 60 to 70 miles, which I feel like is enough distance for those two biomes to shift pretty naturally. Especially since we're not taking into account any elevation in this map changes, other than mountains and hills, and like highlands and things of that nature, but we're not like doing anything necessarily like plateaus or things like that, where that can have a very distinct change on what sort of biome happens. And that can happen in a very short amount of time, or short amount of distance. Which is why you have sort of like, especially in places sort of South America, where you have sort of the terraced fields that actually move through entirely different biome zones on the same side of one mountain. Which is very interesting. See, our next one. Alright, 3. Okay, so 3 is hills. We got ourselves some hills. And they're going to be... I guess they would be chaparral hills. So, just denote those with a little orange. We put those guys down, and then we just throw the orange on top of them. Okay. Alright, 5. That's a desert again. And desert can mean anything from sort of Badlands, sort of Arizona, where there's just not a lot of topsoil, Utah kind of areas, all the way to, the Sahara, very beach-like, fine-grained sand deserts. Not really going into the nitty-gritty about which type it would be. Right, 6. 6, 7, and 8 mean it's just the same as our primary source. Oh, rolled an 11. So 11 is a wetlands. We got ourselves a little marsh here. Ben or something. 6. Perfect. 5 again. So kind of a dry area over here on this coastal area. Same thing. And if you guys are wondering why I have the D10 up there, it's for when I do occasionally roll a mountain. I'll know whether that mountain is going to be a volcano or not without having to roll it separately. Right. Then we'll speed this up after I go through this first one, but I just want to make sure that it's nice and slow, everybody gets a chance to kind of see it. 7, alright. We'll get our primary again. And 9, which is slightly more verdant finally. Which is going to be, give us a little tree here. Boop. But that's going to be a little dry guy. And if you want to know what kind of goes into the full detail of the biomes themselves, like I said, over on the website, we've done a hash through all of it, so you can kind of see and get a better idea of like what these actually mean on a map like this. Alright, we rolled another 11, that's another wetland. 9, alright, that's another forest. But that guy is just a dry forest. 3, some more hills. Perfect. So yeah, it's very relaxing sort of activity to just kind of sit down, have some fun, have some coffee, just kind of hanging out. It's a good, nice wind down weekend afternoon. Afternoon opportunity is what I was trying to say in mauling. Especially, I was thinking about doing a character level up, but I did one of those for one of my campaigns just recently, and I had another one that was coming up that we played on Friday, and that character needed to level up, but it's very tedious, and it wasn't going to be a lot of interesting things to look at. There weren't a lot of choices, there was just a lot of stuff to write down. I'm playing an Artificer, and the Artificer got their archetype because they went up to level 3. So it was mainly just a bunch of stuff to record, but not really make any choice except for the actual archetype choice, which I already knew I was going to choose anyway, so there wasn't a lot of things to go off of. Decided to make an alchemist, because that's what's going to make the most sense for the party and for that character. Even though, because I didn't really want to go the Iron Man route for it, which is maybe the better. And then we already have a sorcerer and a druid in the party, so I didn't want to do the artillerist. Kind of already good on sort of the big evocation, shoot magics kind of stuff. So, and then we have a paladin in the party, and I didn't want to steal their thunder, kind of doing something like the battlesmith. Alright, that's another 6. And 4, so that's actually -2, but it doesn't get any drier than desert, so it has to be a desert. So if, say, we were doing, it's a good example, so say if we were doing, for instance, this light forest was the primary hex, and we need to go one drier than that would be, well, I guess that's true, these should actually be plains. That's me screwing up. Let me pick that. That's why I should double check the sheet I'm looking at, instead of just assuming. These actually shouldn't be that, they should be that. That's my bad. So there's +1 to each side, and then +2 to each side. So in the plain, if we went to -1, we'd of course get this sort of chaparral orange, and then if we -2, then it would be the desert. So that, because we allowed that much discrepancy, that's why we end up with some things like this, where we have this, right, we've got this light forest next to this desert. So if you didn't want to do that, you just reduce it, but that's of course going to make the entire region a lot more homogeneous. So it kind of depends on what you want. I wanted it to make it feel like when you're traveling overland that you really are kind of going through different biomes, even with sort of like a week's travel. But if you get to a point like we did here where you can't do +2 because you can't go any drier than desert on that scale. 9, so +1, which is not a forest. Remember this. It's the plain. No problem. Lock that away. And 5, which is 1 drier, which is another desert. It also does a really good job of simulating better, I feel like, where people would naturally sort of put homes, where they could do agriculture, things like that. Obviously not in the deserty areas, kind of over here in this little patch. But you could have this really nice sort of city or town or village that kind of hangs out here on the coast, because this is going to be probably a coastal city in these hills where they do some farming, and there's probably a pretty decent port here. And they're just kind of surrounded on both sides by desert, which would make them very strategically powerful. But you could also, if you were going to play D&D or whatever there, have a very cool thing where you could do, right, they have to deal with like desert raiders and things like that, and monsters that come out of the desert, which would be fun. Go next. Right, a 7. Well, we know what that is. 6, 7, 8. 7 again. I feel like these rolls are somewhat more homogenous than they were last time I was kind of going through things. Which seemed like it was kind of breaking the curve. But not in a bad way. Just that I felt like I was getting a little bit more random than I should from a nearly bell curve. So yeah, that's our first sort of hex done. And we'll speed this up a little bit, because what I usually do is I roll, and once I get whatever the primary thing is, because it's most likely to come up, I'll just count as I'm rolling and then fill in those squares until I get something different. So it should pick up, hopefully, a little bit in speed. Not a ton. And again, speed is not the name of the game. We're just trying to have a good time. Nice little cozy stream. Right? We're not trying to push anything. Just trying to keep it nice and easy. Nice and easy. No problems here. Alright, so we have our hills up next. Where's my thing? I'll show you. So, we've got hills. This little guy right here. So this hill is basically the area is basically the approximate of having a plains but hills, highlands kind of area. So that's sort of what we're working with. So they can go drier into that sort of chaparral or desert hills, or they can be, forested. And then, because this doesn't have sort of a heavy forest hills, the way that I've been doing that is just being like, okay, then it's just heavy forest. It's just sort of a basin, a dale or something in between sort of these highlands that just soaks up a lot of water and then gets a bunch of growth because of it. Let's start. Alright, that's a 10. That's actually a +2, so we're going to go directly into what I was just talking about. We're going to get that nice heavy forest right off the bat, which I'm looking for. There it is. Okay. Matches up with the forest here. Always like it. There's a lot of serendipity, I find, doing those things where things just kind of line up. Right, so we got our first standard. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then a mountain, which will be a volcano. So there we go. We're gonna get all the examples out of the way, I guess. I selected that. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and right, we just talked about that serendipity. So we're gonna put a mountain, a little volcano here that's right next to our other mountainous region, so it makes sense to go there. 1, 2, and then a double dry, so that's gonna be desert hills. So 1, 2, and then this guy. You actually just keep going. Sometimes I'll do that and just not fill them in. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then some water. Interesting. 3, 4, then we got some water. Then there's our heavy forest again. And then just forested hill. I guess technically those would be... Technically they should be lightly forested hills. Like I said, this guy needs some work. I just made it real quick and I wasn't thinking about all the sort of nuances in between, which I should have been. But that's okay. I'm not going to be too worried about it at this point. I can always go back and change it if I really need to. Making changes to a map like this is very, very simple. Because the webapp allows you to save it, so you can just pull it back open, make changes. It's not a big deal. But we did do one here. Okay. We'll just leave it how it is for right now. 5. Okay, that's one dryer, so we're going to get... Let's get it right here. Put this orange background on it. 1. And then dryer again. Oh. Gotta put down the thing first. And it only works one way, you can't do it the other way, so. Two, 3, 3, and then like that. Let dry there. Oh. Right there. Ooh, another mountain. This time not a volcano. 1. And then another sort of down here. And sort of everything else that's in here is our standard hills. We can just kind of go back in and fill in all the spots we didn't do yet. It kind of speeds things up quite a bit. There we go. See, it still doesn't feel like too weird, so we can definitely see where it's sort of above it, right? We have this very much forested area, then it kind of gets away to these hills, and then it's dry down here. Then we also see sort of these mountains continuing, and these sort of hills with some forested areas still kind of peeking through. Kind of represent sort of those basins, those sort of dales that we talked about, sort of low points, valleys in there where a lot of water collects and is protected from them. The worst is sort of the high winds and things like that. Alright, let's move on. We've got a couple more of these guys, so let's keep going with that. Alright, right off the bat. Oop, and then double. Very nice. As we get closer here, probably not in this one, but maybe in the next one, we're going to start looking at maybe changing these to Laurentian. We'll do the pines with the pine trees with the lighter color back to them. But for right now, we'll just keep going with deciduous. One, 2, 3, 4, and then we're going to have us a nice line there. Which means that we're going to end up right back where we were. So those make a nice little sense right there. One, And then we're gonna have us okay right here. One, and then a little wetlands. One, two, three, and then a desert. 1, 2, 3, that hill, and then the desert. One, and then hill right there, a nice little guy there. 1, 2, 3, 3, and then the little chaparral hill. Another little chaparral hill. And so that's a 1, 2, wooded hill. 1, and then desert. Right? Yes. 1, 2. And the rest of it is just our standard sort of hills, rolling hills in this area. So this is definitely sort of the area that we consider some sort of highlands that are around here. And we've got a couple of big hill hexes right next to each other. And it seems very well reflected, right? That we're on sort of the drier side of the continent. I think there isn't as much trees here, and most of those trees happen in those lowland areas. So that heavy vegetation. And that also includes, we have those drop downs where you have things like, right, there's a nice big bowl lake here. And then over here we have a nice fine mire or fen of some type. Probably, I remember off the top of my head, I think it's some mire that doesn't have rivers flowing into it, I think. Maybe. I'm gonna get mires and fens confused. I think it's mire is the one that doesn't have surface water feeding into it, I think. Yeah, then we're going to have some more hills, and then those hills are going to get away. Now, as we enter this one, when we get those trees, we're going to use the Laurentian biome. We're not going to use the deciduous biome to kind of show that transition. Let's go ahead and get started. Alright, just going to kick it off right off the top with another mountain. Makes sense. Right now you've got two of these mountain hexes right next to each other. Like I said, there's a lot of serendipity where things just kind of line up by themselves. I found myself a lot of times wanting to sort of like add a lot of overcorrections when it feels like I could just actually sit back and let it happen. So I'm not as worried about being super perfect about changing some of this stuff, is that it'll kind of make sense in the wash. It'll all kind of wash out. 1, 2, and then another wetlands. Nice. Probably my favorite biome in D&D is the wetlands, just because they don't come up very often. which is weird because they are all over the place in the real world. It's something that you run into quite frequently, especially for people in that time period where rivers are a lot more important to surface water is a lot more important to survival and success. And they're very useful for a number of reasons, such as polders, like the Netherlands, where you sort of drain these sort of wetlands, and then they're very fertile. Depending on what kind of wetland it is, it can be very fertile, sort of reclamation for farming land, or to use them for things like bog iron, which I've really loved in Witcher 3, that they actually talk about that, right? You actually come across a quest for that, which is a lot of fun, when you're dealing with sort of like the godling. You guys remember that? And twice as light, so that's some deserty things. 1. And then some heavier. More verdant. A little bit drier, so we're going to have some chaparral. Keep going. Yep, I'm going to have the same thing again. Alright, that's 1. Normal biome. 2. In our desert. Alright, we have another wetlands. Hooray! That down there. Ooh. Oh wait, I'm seeing wetlands on 3s though. Wetlands are supposed to be on 11s, not 3s. Sorry, I switched the 2d6 rolls. So I used to have water and wetlands at the bottom instead of at the top row, so they used to be 2 and 3 instead of 11 and 12. So occasionally I still get them kind of flipped. So these should actually be just straight up plains, is what these should be. And this too should be a mountain. There we go. Everything as it should be. I can't remember if that's what I did previously, but like I said, we don't have to fix it. Just try to correct my mistakes when I realize them. At least in the moment. 1. And now there's actually a wetland. Okay. Yeah, well, that's not a mountain. It's a wetland. There we go. 1. And then a forested hill. I realize that I started using the wrong hills. We'll go back and change them. That's fine. Another hill. What would be a hill, but we're already in the hill, so it's instead just a lowland area. 1. And then another hill. 1. And this will just be to remind me. Those guys, because I'm still going to have to go back and change them. I can go ahead and do this guy right here, though. Alright, 4. That's twice as dry. Ooh, got some water. Interesting. 1. And another mountain. These are more like the rolls I remember. They're kind of all over the place. 9. I'm going to use the correct one this time. Right, there is a correct one, I'm pretty sure. There it is. We have one more roll. Is a for this little desert. And deserts actually are more likely to happen next to evergreens than deciduous, so it'll start making more sense. Alright, before we fill in everything, let me go back and Laurentian up this stuff. Boom, boom, boom. Change the color on those. And now it looks like we have a little nice, very standard transition kind of through that. It's really good. Between those biomes. And at our regular hills. Which is going to work out, because we kind of went from very, very heavily hilled areas and then not as heavily hilled. Kind of breaking up into more plains and deserts, and that stuff's really good. Now, do I want to go back and correct those forests that I put in? No, I don't think so. I think I'm good where I am. Happy with that. I don't want to get too noodly. Alright, and we'll change all these bad boys later, but I'm just gonna go ahead and before I forget, is something I do on occasion is miss one guy in the hex. Oh, 1-1 right off the bat. Alright, well we got some mountain right up top. Then a 5. That's one lighter, so that's actually going to be this guy, but yellow. Alright, same thing here. It'll be important to kind of do these as we go, because we're going to have to change the colors on the other ones, and we don't want to get too confused. Unless we're going to be staring at a lot of the same looking icons and not know what color to put as their background. Alright. 1. And then wetlands. And this time we're going to start using swamps. Because this is a treed area. 1. And volcano. Barrel. 1. 2. And then wetlands. Oh, right, we're doing swamps now. We're in the swamp hex. Alright, well, we got a lot going on in this hex. We got mountains, we got volcanoes, now we've got water. Pretty diverse. Got a lot of stuff going on. It's very much a transitional zone. So that kind of makes sense. Alright, so 1 heavier. Well, we can't go any lighter than that, so we're going to have to go to straight up forest. One. And then we can't go any lighter than that, right? Well, we could go to the swamp, right? So 1 would be the heavier forest, and then the swamp. Wow. Another mountain. Alright. Cool. Alright. Heavy forest. I guess they would just be normal. I don't play that. Yeah, I already started with heavy forest, so let's just keep going with that heavy forest vibe. I don't want to second guess myself too much. And a little bit drier, so that's just a normal hill. Or sorry, that should be going right over myself. Light hill. 1, 2, 3, 3, and then a normal hill. 2, 3, normal. To a swamp. 4, that's 2 drier, so this will actually just be a normal hill. So 1. Then we get our forest again. 1, 2, 3, and then 1 heavier. Perfect. All right, so let's put our light green on stuff before we get too far. I guess we could have done that at the end. That wasn't really that important. We did our lighter forest as we were going. Go ahead and look at these guys up here. Boop, 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 boop. Looks good to me. Oh, we're missing one. Seems like there's always one that gets away. There he is. Alright, let's move on. Oof. Yeah, stretch it out. Alright, so next up we have some more Laurentian. Very straightforward. 1, and then 2 lighter. Right. Light forest, and then plain. Ends up being a plain. And we need to go ahead and do the yellow as we're doing it because we have a different background at least. This is a very specific case. In most of it, we don't have to do that. Most of these hexes, we don't need to do that as we're going along. But in this one, we definitely do. As we're dealing with sort of this Laurentian specific sort of transition zone, we're going to need to do those as we go. So it's a little bit slower. 1, and then a little bit heavier. So a deep forest. And a light forest. And a deeper forest. Alright, and then a lighter forest again. Really liking those 5s and 9s right now. Very hot on them. 1, then another 5. One, and then another 5. 1, and then another 9. Really banging on them. 1, 2, and then a swamp. One, and then double up, so another swamp. Sort of pine barren sort of situation. Then a light. Oops. Go ahead and take care of that now. Another light forest. And really hammering those with those just outside the normal range. Another swamp. Alright. Heavy forest. 1, 2, and a light forest. And then actually a plane. And then another plane. Nine, so a heavy forest again. And we're going to end with actual forest. Great. Alright, and then we'll just fill in these guys with that orienting background. Boom, boop, 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 boop. It gives us a nice, very greenish kind of area. It seems like there are areas that seem to get quite a bit of precipitation. It's got pretty dense forests here. Got a few different swamps. Got some swamp banding going on some places, which honestly makes total sense for that latitude where it's generally in a low pressure zone. It gets a lot of precipitation, primarily during the winter as snow. But that does mean that it sort of sticks and stays there and a lot of times. So you end up with a bunch of swampy ground and end up with a bunch of nice lakes. Sort of, if you want to think about it, it's sort of that upper United States, lower Canada, boreal kind of zone. I guess more in Laurentian, I guess that's more sort of upper United States. And then it really moves into full taiga mode once you enter sort of Canada in a lot of ways. But both very similar in that vein. Over here, we have we're going to see some more deciduous because we're getting closer to that coast, so it's a little bit warmer. Hey, we're doing some mapping. So we're taking. I'll show you. We're taking this map and we're zooming in on it. And I can zoom out for you guys just to kind of show you really quickly what that looks like as we are moving and grooving here. So as you can see, we're doing quite a bit of a zoom in. And that is a pretty good show off of what we're looking at, right? We're kind of looking at this guy. And we're seeing that replicated there. My stupid head out of the way. Yeah. Oop, not quite. But basically like that, and we're making this map a little bit more detailed. So yeah, that's what we've got going on today. It's a nice little cozy afternoon stream. Right, let's zoom back in. Oh god, we went way up. We need to go way down here. That's where we're working. It's right in the center here. And zoom in a bit more. We were at 20. I think that's what we were started on. That's pretty good zoom. I might even zoom it in a little bit more. I don't feel like I have to be quite as precise with my button clicks. Mapping. There we go. But yeah, we're just doing some biome mapping on the smaller scale. Each of these hexes is about 60 to 70 nautical miles. So I don't know what the translation for that in kilometers is. I don't know what the translation is for that in statute miles either. But it's quite a bit. It's quite the distance we're working with. Alright. Let's keep on moving and grooving. We have our citrus forest here. Nice broadleaf. And we're going to start it off immediately with a swamp. And then we're going to go a little bit lighter, which means that we're going to get one of these guys, but it's going to be a bit of a light forest. About 50% forest, 50% plains, or prairie. And we're going to have a bit of heavy forest. Just kind of filling things in. 1, 2, 2 regular forests, and then we will just pop, pop, then we'll do that heavy forest again. Oh, I was clicking on the wrong thing. Let me do this. Boop, boop. There we go. I mean, you'd be hoofing it if you were gonna get that far in a day's travel. You'd be hoofing it if you want to try to do that in single day's travel. Especially in the D&D world where you're carrying a bunch of stuff with you and you may or may not be on the road, and it's not paved probably. But yeah, it's gonna take some time. It's gonna take a little bit of time to get across. But if you're riding a horse or you had a good road, you might be able to do one of these hexes in a day for sure. Especially if it wasn't too windy and you were doing a straight line. As the crow flies, as the saying goes. Let's see, 1. Ooh, into the mountain. I'll just skip those for now, and then I'll put in all our standard hexes after this. All our primary hexes. 1. And then we got a bit of a light guy. Add that in here. But yeah, it's just a sort of a cozy end of the weekend stream. So, open for conversation. Just kind of hanging out. Doing my thing. Been working on this map for a while. We're just keep plugging away at it. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then this guy. 1, 2, 3, 4. What is going on with you guys? You guys doing anything fun over the weekend? Got big plans for the week? And in the U.S., it's holiday week we have coming up. We have Thanksgiving coming up. So people are getting ready for that. We have a light forest. Another light forest. Oh, I was clicking on the wrong thing. We'll get there, slowly but surely. And that is going to be a hill. So we've got a good hill that we can use here, so we'll go ahead and use that. Boop. No, actually it's not an underestimate. Most market towns are only about, I have to use statute because they live in the U.S., are only about 5 miles away because it's a far enough walk where you can walk someplace, do business, and get back in the same day without having to stay overnight. So, there are records of people really hoofing it, but most of the time, not. Or if they are traveling very fast by horse, but to do that, you have to have stages. You have to switch out horses if you're going to go fast for long periods of time. And I definitely wouldn't say that they were more fit than most people today. They're certainly, in a lot of times, they're malnutritioned, and certainly had worse healthcare and gear. 3. So we got our hills. 7. We got 1. Ooh, then we got some water. Nine. Alright, so that's going to be 1. It's a little bit notice, so let's go ahead and put that down. And after that, we have another 9. Another heavy sort of thing. Let's see, and that's 2. So that is a mountain again. Boom. 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 So 1, 2, 3, and then we got ourselves a nice little swamp. Keep on, keep it on. And 4, so that's twice as dry, so that's actually just going to be a little plains that we have down here. A nice little prairie. 10. And after that, 10, so that's twice as fine, so that's also going to be a little swamp down here. Then we just go back in and add all our primary hexes that we skipped over. Easy, easy. Boom, boom, boom. There we go. That is a little forested hex done. That nice deciduous broadleaf forest. And then this next area, we're going to have a heavy forest. So in the heavy forest, if we have 1 more that's more verdant, that's a swamp. 2 more, and it's going to be water. 1 lighter, it should be a light forest, or dry forest. And 2 drier should be a plain. Those should all make sense. No. Every red hex, I'm just using the hexes. They're just red right now to show me exactly where the boundaries of the larger hexes are. And then later on, I'll go in and fill them all in, probably. But just to be able to see where I'm supposed to be in the map as I'm making it specifically. Otherwise, that'd be a lot of lava. A lot of molten lava that just appears at very specific areas of the map. Hey, how are you doing? Nice to see you. So we're going to jump back in. Oh, new session. Oh yeah? Good? Session? Missed my game today. So doing some mapping instead. Very cool. Were you running or playing? Let's go ahead and get started. 1, 2, and then 2 drier, so we know that that is going to be our nice light forest. And 1 drier. And that's going to be 2 drier again, so we're going to have that same Where's here? We're gonna have to drop that yellow on it. And 5, 1 dryer, so that's just a normal forested tile. It's gonna vacillate back and forth, it looks like. Yep. Oh, and 1 there, so that's gonna be a swamp for us. Oh, more swamp. Love the swamps, gotta have more. 3, so we got some hills. Really looking to get some more 6, 7, 8s in here. There's one. And then immediately just take it away. Immediately take it away from me. 1, 2, and then guy right here. Oh, same thing again. 1, 2, and then swap. Ooh, tough against a best friend. Tough battle against a PC's best friend. Now joined a necromancy organization. Oh, got overwhelmed. Wow. That's fun. So, it sounds like it ended a bit on a down note then. Got came in and got wrecked, huh? I've been there. On both sides. Well, that's cool. That's cool that your DM allowed to give you some flexibility to just sort of like burn all your resources to be able to pull off something like that. Ooh, getting knocked out 3 times in one fight. I mean, at some point, aren't you the common denominator on that? Right? Like as a gunslinger, you gotta get away from people. Ooh, it's oh, we're gonna have this little volcano right here. Interesting, in the middle of this forest. 1, then some hills. And 4, which makes it our nice light guy. Drop that on him. There we go. 1, and some more hills. Oh yeah, you got a gunslinger with a substance abuse problem. Is there a flaw? Yeah, that could be fun to play or play with, or it could be awful. It kind of depends on the group and how everything gels, right? I've played in some groups where it's done really well, and some where it's maybe not done so well. It can be definitely a make or break. 3, so wetlands, or not wetlands, hills. I shouldn't have swapped those. I waited too long to do it. I think that's the problem. So now my mind immediately associates a 3 with a wetland. And 4, nice little dry guy down here. Light guy down here. 5, right, so that's one of these. And then 1. But then another mountain. Getting some mountains down in here, so that's interesting. 1, 2. Alright, so we'll finish it off strong with that heavy forest, filling those in. Sparkly trauma. All your PCs have sparkly trauma. It's a cool flaw. That's fun. Fun. Yeah, so I mean it sounds like you literally like had to keep him or her, I don't know who it is. Him. Had to keep him away from the booze to get work done. That's You're making it sound like that's one person's full-time job is to keep them away from the booze. The other, so the gunslinger can actually do what they're supposed to be doing during that time. Our next hex is a water hex. Ooh. This will be interesting. See what happens. Or, oh, if we wanted to go, I know that is supposed to be deciduous. the fear of glitter. That is. I have some friends who I think probably have sparkly trauma. For sure. Alright. 1, 2, 3, and then our... Okay, so that's actually 2 prior, so... Yep. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6, and then we'll just swap it out and make it that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then this is actually going to be probably end up being a little island out there by itself. 5, some wetlands back in here. More wetlands. 1, 2, 3, and no wetlands. 3, and wetlands there. Let's see. That's actually going to be a forest. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then a mountain. 2, 3, 4, 5, mountain. Almost done. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay. So most of this is going to actually end up being quite a bit of water. Very cool. Oh, interesting. Oh, you have multiple merfolk in the campaign? That's very interesting. Oh, and a tree folk who was literally born yesterday. Yeah, I played for a short while in a very, very short-lived campaign where we had a similar tree folk who had almost the exact same backstory. Was like brand new to the world and didn't really understand a whole bunch. this screaming from my polished, sparkly armor. Well, you gotta think of it as that is a proven battle tactic. You need armor that glistens so it can blind your foe's eyes. Exactly. Alright, well, we got that one done. That's good. So, Looks like we're gonna have some little, maybe a few little island chains, a little peninsula kind of coming out here in this bay area next to sort of our tear. It's really good. So this is gonna be a really cool sort of spindly sort of peninsula that just kind of sticks out. A little promontory. That'll be interesting. So we'll get something cool out of that. We get down into detail about like what's actually going to be in these hexes and not just what the hexes are themselves. Stop fighting me. There we go. Oh, you got commissions? That's really fun. We know I've got DMs in one of my campaign. What he's done is that he's gone and he's made and painted custom miniatures for all of us, which is a lot of fun. It's something I guess he does with every campaign he runs. He's a very dedicated DM. He's not the sort of DM who gets like 3 to 5 sessions in and then decides that, hey, I'm deciding that I'm going to go on the back burner and I'm not going to do this session anymore. Lets the session fall apart, or lets the game fall apart. So we've been playing those same characters for, I guess, about a year and a half at this point, if not a little bit longer than that. Though I think that campaign's starting to come towards an end. I think we're about to finish that one off, and we're going to switch over and do something else, which will be fun. It's been a fun campaign, but it feels like it's reaching its natural endpoint, and will be a really good one. And let's say probably the best way to do it. The best way to do it here is that I don't even know if you may not be able to straight link it, but if you give me you drop most of the URL in chat, we'll be able to find it. And I'll save it and throw it up on the other screen. Let's see. Alright, so we got these guys. So we're going back into sort of that chaparral Mediterranean, rocky, kind of dryish sort of biome. Working with again over here. That's what that orange is. Alright, well, doesn't get any drier than desert. You can definitely see that it's like quite lush on one side of the continent and then relatively dry on the other side. At least in this area. Ooh, and I'm 1, so a mountain. I guess technically that would be a pine mountain, but... up. 9. So a little bit more verdant. So we got some plains down in here. It'll work. Same thing again. And then another sort of deserty guy in here. More plains. More desert. Desert and what was it? Plain? There's a plain. Keep on. And some hills. Put these down here. Go ahead and throw that on them. Tin. So we actually got a little bit of a light forest kind of going on here. Lightly wooded area. Lightly wooded area. Sorry, that's not lightning. It's just that again. And then some more desert. Quite a bit of desert kind of going on over here. It's like plains and desert and everything we're kind of expecting to get out of this. And 4, so more desert. And more planes. So just doing that sort of 5-9 jump again, seems like. 3. So, more hills. Go ahead and throw the orange on them. That chaparral Mediterranean. Biome. 1, 2. 2, and then some water. Okay. Interesting. Which is really nice. So we actually ended up with some water at the edge of this hex on the left side here, which is really good. That means that that's going to break up our coastline a little bit because this is going to be sort of a sea intrusion. Be a little bay of some type. Or cove, something of that nature. Always really fun to sort of add those in. 1, 2, 3, and then desert Q. Boom. Alright. Got this little mountain. Oh, more water. Interesting. Yeah. So it's doesn't look like it's gonna be a bay at all. Just be a tuck in at the coastline. I'm playing here. $10. Alright, so that's actually going to be our little light forest. Go ahead and add that in. $7. So straight up. And then another mountain. And then 1. And then what's our last one going to be? 2. Okay. So the rest of these will go back in and fill in. So we actually ended up with quite a lot of jumping around on this one. It'll look nice. Definitely see that much drier coastline on the side there on sort of that western coast. Let's see, let's go check this out. Let's see. Did you throw that up on Imager, I'm guessing? Where you set those guys up at? This next area we have is plains, prairie, sort of open. At this point, we're kind of getting to the area where it should be more sort of steppes, so short grain prairie. Short grass prairie, I should say. Alright, 10. So it's going to be actually some heavier. What do we want to do? We want to do Laurentian here? I think so. I think that makes sense. I think it makes sense to do more Laurentian over here. Heavy Laurentian. That's what that's going to be. Or no, it's just going to be straight up Laurentian. Durr. I know what I'm doing. I'm a professional. Alright. It's alright, I see it. I just wasn't sure if it was Imager or not, but I got it. We're good. Let's see, we got the So a little bit lighter, so that's going to be our Mediterranean. Next one. 1. And then lighter again. 1, 2, 3, and then lighter again. 1, 2, 3, lighter again. Makes sense, it's right next to the desert square. Good transitional square. More sort of chaparral. More chaparral. Man. Google Dice Roller really loves 5s. Feels like. 3. Get some hills. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, and then some hills. Alright. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hills. That was a good run. Usually don't get runs that good. 1. And then something that's a bit heavier. Wait, this was supposed to be... That's supposed to be light. 1. Ooh, and some water. Alright, it's going to be a nice little fin, probably. Let's see. More. And then a little bit lighter, so we're going to get some more of that Mediterranean down here. Have a little bit drier, so Mediterranean again. Then bow, or twice as dry. So we're actually going to end up with a little bit of a little breakout little desert down there area. Very dry area. 1, 2, 3, and then 1 lighter. So let me finish these guys up real quick. Go. Go. And then we need to change this guy's background to that. So we're going to do that Laurentian. Sort of half broadleaf, half evergreen. And the rest of these guys are all going to be plains. You very naturally sort of break to plains from that west coast as it moves across into that sort of prairie segment. Alright, let me take a look at what we got cooking over here real quick. Alright, let's hop back into it. So we're working on our sort of plains prairie area, just kind of flushing it out, getting things in, just having some fun chatting. We'll keep on keeping on. If you guys have any questions or stuff to talk about, D&D related, not D&D related, whatever, just throw it in the chat. We'll talk. So let's keep going. Right, 9. So we got us a bit of a dry forest. Go ahead and throw that in there. Keep on moving. Ooh, more dry forest. It's easy. Unfortunately, I have to do that because we might come across some just normal forest. I guess that'd be Laurentian, but whatever. 9 again. Okay. We're just going to keep on with the same thing. I swear, this Google Dice Roller really, really loves when we roll 2d6, 5s, and 9s. Just loves it. Can't get enough of it. Doesn't care anything about normal distribution. Alright, well that's the first one. Alright, so that'll be a plains. 2 plains. 3 plains. 4 plains. And then the hill. Okay. Let me get a little down here. 1. Ooh, then we got some water. do dry area. Oh, and a mountain. Just one off from having that be a volcano, but it was just a mountain this time. A little dry forest. Got some plains. Another little dry forest. Not dry forest. That's a 5, not a 9. Ooh, and a nice little marsh. 1, 2, 3. 3 plains. 1, 2, 3, and then another little thing of water. Quite a bit of water. And some hills. Seven, so some more plains. Plains, and then this is actually going to be actual Laurentian over here. So we'll throw that light green on it to show that it's about 50% broadleaf deciduous forest and about 50% evergreen or pine forest. 1, 2, 3, and then nice dry forest. So tell the difference because it's yellow in the background instead of that light green. Ooh, and then 10, so more of that forest. Very good. Ooh, and then a 4, so that's twice as dry. So that's actually going to be a little plains to chaparral to desert. So we got a little desert square down here. Very dry in that area. And then only slightly dry there. Alright, and then we can go back in and fill the rest of those with our primary hex type, which is going to be our plains. Though this is probably more steppe at this point. Nice. Then once we finish this row, I think we will kind of zoom out and take a look at everything. Well, I say that, but we may not finish this row. I forgot that I think this is actually the longest row in the whole continent. Yeah, just about. So we may or may not finish that, because we're going to stream for about 45 minutes, maybe an hour more, so we're may not get quite that far. So we'll have to see. Very quickly. But what's kind of going on with you guys? You guys having a good weekend? Good end of your weekend? No, I am. It's been fun. It's been a long week, but it's nice that it's about over. Kind of relax. It's a nice sort of end of the weekend sort of relaxing activity. And with this next one we have, of course, more sort of Laurentian. I'm going to save myself a little bit of work by a little bit of effort by moving this a little bit closer to our icons. Alright, 5, so that's going to be a dry forest. One, 2, and then a heavy. One, 2, and then a dry. Alright, and that's actually going to be a bit of plains down here. 1, 2, and then another little drive first. Right there. Knocking it out of the park. Keep on moving. Oh, same thing again. Go ahead and get that drive. I'm losing it. There we go. Staring at it and can't see where it is. I said dry, right? Yes. Right. Ooh, and then this is going to be a little swamp here at the edge. Talked about that previously. It's sort of like a Pine Barrens kind of situation. It can be a very fun sort of adventure location. Kind of area to play around with, so light, and then we're going to have some more plains over here. 2, 3, 4, and then some heavy. One, 2, 3, 4, and then heavy again. No, wait, that should actually be a swamp. That's twice as verdant. Now that's gonna be heavy. It's gonna be some dense forest. Four, alright, that'll be a plain next to it. One. Ooh, and then a mountain. One. And then a dry forest to finish it off here. And what we can do is we can fill the rest of these with our primary, and then we can go back in and add that yellow, or that light green to them to show that they are Laurentian and not just straight taiga boreal forest. So, slightly different. We'll actually add those here as well. So very much dominating this space. Very straightforward this time. And we're going to have the same thing again in this space. A very natural sort of progression across that, right? We had very dry, deserty over here on that west coast, and then as it moves across, it will turn into that sort of plains area, and then it's going to turn into much more forested, heavy, dense forest. Which is exactly what we want, right? That's exactly what it's supposed to look like. One. Oh, now we're going to get right into the wetlands, right into a swamp. Or bog, or whatever it's going to be. Oh, another one. One, two, and then we're going to have a nice plain. Another swamp. Lots of swamps, apparently. And roll quite a few 11s. Or some more plains. One, two, and then we're going to have that's also going to be, it's a 10, that's also going to be a swamp. Be a plain next to that. One. More More swamps. Okay. Oop, that's not a swamp. That's plain. One, two, three, and some hills. One, two, and then plains again. One. And then that is going to be the swamp. Alright, then some water. Some more swamp. Gonna have quite a bit of swamp this time. Wow. One. And then a heavier. I mean to roll that again. And then a lighter. There's a dry forest down here. And then we'll polish the last one off with our primary hex type. And then we'll just fill these guys in. And then we'll give them that, again, that light green treatment to show that they are not straight up taiga. Which I guess I should have done up here, right? Because that was the same area, so we should do that as well. Or do we want to? Maybe it looks better to just kind of have that, because then like everything kind of runs in a little bit too together. So let's just actually stick with what we have. Then it's breaks it up a little bit more when we're looking at it. It was a little bit nicer. A little bit more differentiation, so it's not just that light green just placard completely across. Yeah, I think that'll work. I like that. Ah, see, but I did change them up here. But then that was the only one that I changed them on. Now, actually, let me change those back. Because I do like the way that it looks. I think it helps, even though technically these would be Laurentian, but I'm coloring back in with Boreal, I think it helps to, at a quick glance, reinforce that this is very much a very heavy forested area. Which is really what we're trying to showcase. Yeah, I think those work a little bit better. And I think it will also make it feel a little bit more natural as it grades into just the straight boreal forest. Right, now we've just got straight up mountains. And this is a drier mountain, so it's not a... Well, it's surrounded on all sides by forest, so I guess it would be a forested mountain. Forested mountain area. But the mountains themselves are going to be not forested, because we do have some hexes that showcase that. Which I guess we probably should go back and fix. I was not doing that this stream, but we should probably change that for some of them. Like these guys right in here. Well, probably not these guys. But these guys over here for sure. So these should actually be these kind of mountains. The elevation kind of showcases that change. And I'd go ahead and do that for that one now as well. Very cool. And I know somebody asked earlier, but I should go ahead and reiterate that the red hexes are just there to showcase the difference between, so I can, at a glance, I can tell these big hexes where these big hexes are instead. because each of the little hexes, each of the red hexes outlines one of these hexes, which is sort of our larger step up in, as far as size dimensions go. And to reiterate again that each of these little hexes guys in here are 70 nautical miles point to point and 60 miles blade to blade or side to side. So, and the nautical miles are slightly longer than statute miles. So, you know, they're sizable. Getting across this is a bit rough, right? We are sort of looking at an entire world. And I haven't gone back and done some of the river stuff yet, and I will need to do that, but I will probably do that off stream. Because it starts to get a little fiddly. So that's going to take a little bit more concentration, so it might be helpful not to be streaming trying to keep up with chat and things like that, and what's going on. So I'll probably do that stuff off camera. But let's go ahead and jump in here. So, every time that we roll, the only thing that really changes when we're dealing with these mountainous hexes is that every time that we roll a mountain, there's a chance that it's going to be, or it will be a snowy peak. So, sort of our large, sort of Everest, K2, Matterhorn, etc. Himalayas kind of jut up, right? We're talking about mountains that are, you know, in that sort of 20 to 30,000 feet range, right? They're very large mountains. Let's go ahead and get started. Okay. So, how do we want to do this? I can't remember how I did this last time, frankly. I need to go back and look at some of the other mountains that I worked on a little bit earlier. Because I know we went no, they're to the left, that's why. Alright, so I clearly went mountains and then... Because they don't get any drier, that's why. Gotcha. Alright, I'm on it now. Now I know how to interpret this again. So I rolled a 9, so that will definitely be one of these guys right there. And then we'll do a nice little down. Another 10. Ooh, and some water. It's probably sort of like a highland lake. Really interesting on this lake. 1, 2, 3. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Boom. So quite a few mountains in a row. 1, 2, and then some hills. I guess we should probably make those these kind of hills, now that I think about it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, just keep track of where we are. 11. 11 and then some hills. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and then a hill right there. A very mountainous region. 1. And then a 10, so that's actually going to be down here. What I am going to do is I think I am going to make this Laurentian. At least for the hills. I'm going to leave the mountains as is. And the rest of this is just going to be... We didn't roll any mountains, so we don't have any super tall mountains, but we do have quite a mountainous region here. We ended up rolling very just straightforward mountains in a lot of ways. Excellent, excellent. Keep on moving. Got that. Very much. Big cluster of mountains in one region. And down here we're just gonna have mainly forest. Well, I guess we'll have a buck up there on that second hex with some hills. A little highland area. So this hex we're about to work on actually situated sort of in a very super trough between some highlands and some mountains. Very small mountain range. Alright, let's go ahead and keep going. This is another Laurentian, and then it looks like over here we do not have Laurentian, which will be nice. Alright, let's keep going. Except this one's going to be a heavy Laurentian, so we're going to do this one a little bit different than we were doing with the coloring. Alright, 1. 2. Alright, some hills. Makes sense, right next to those mountains. 1. Oh, and some swamps. We can see quite a few swamps. 1, 2, 3. And actually some water there. 1. And then there's a tree. Alright, some swamp. Another tree. Standard forest. Alright, 2 more and then a swamp. Again. 1. And more swamp. Wait, no, that should be water. I'm gonna have to redo that chart, so I can actually use it as a reference. 8. So that's 1, 2, then a standard. 1, 2, and then swamp. 3, some hills. 1, and a lone tree. Either single tree, standard forest, then heavy forest, and a lighter forest. Alright, so then we can just go in and add our heavy forest in, which most of this actually ended up being heavy forest, which was not what I was expecting, based off of how rolls have been going. The only difference is here that we need to add that light green to everything. Didn't actually roll any... Very interesting, we didn't actually roll any 4s. 4s, 3s, or 2s, actually. Very interesting. Actually, you know what? I'm going to, just for a little bit of contrast, going to actually take those colors off those hills. So there's a little bit of contrast. Yeah, we see a lot of how wet. So this, I feel like this did a very good job of modeling. Well, a somewhat better job of modeling, sort of on the, because they're both in low pressure belts, but on the more precipitous side of the mountains, even though this isn't a particularly large mountain range. On the right side, you know, very dense forest. On the left side, on that west side, we have fewer forest and more plains. But again, since it's all in sort of that low pressure belt, is that it all gets suspiciously more precipitation across the board than other places in the world would get, because of its latitude. And then we will keep going. And let's just jump in and do this hillside. I think this is, yeah, this is just standard. So down here, and I think that's correct, right? Yes. Okay, so this is just standard pine forest. Now we're getting into standard pine forest, which is good. It's a little less work for us. We don't have to change all the backgrounds. Alright. But we're going to start it off straight up with some hills. So if we have hills when we don't have hills, or sorry, we roll hills on the place that already has hills, it means it doesn't have hills. So let's start that off with a straight up forest. 1. And then we're going to have some hills, so another straight forest. 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to have some heavy forest. Alright, that means that this is just a straight hill. So we're actually going to have a little bit of a chaparral here, so that's interesting. I wasn't expecting to get a ton of that over here, but here we are. Well, oh, I screwed that up. That should actually be light forest, and then this should be, or dry forest, and this should actually be. Again, I gotta fix that chart. I know what these things are supposed to be. I know what I'm doing. I'm a professional amateur. Alright, so same thing here. It's actually gonna be light forest. Or dry forest. Alright. Going with that same, we love 5s again, alright. Yep. Okay, and then we're gonna get a mountain. 1. 1. And then some nut hills, so just straight. 1, 2, 2 forested hills, and then some heavier forest. One, and then we're going to get a wetlands. A little swamp action. And then 4, which we now know is just straight hills. 1, more swamp. Some heavy forest. And then we're going to have some dry forest here. And the last one here is, of course, going to be some heavy forest. I just realized that my bottom lip is a little bit chapped, and I'm pretty sure it's because of my D&D game on Friday. So in my Friday D&D game, I'm playing a young character that's very young and nervous and not self-assured, and very just kind of generally anxious. And he has a very bad tendency of chewing on his bottom lip. And playing in character, I think I chewed, giving myself a bit of a chapped lip because of it. So I'm just kind of chewing on it during session, thinking about my character in person, being like in character at the table. But we have our straight up guys here. Boop. Boop. Yeah, so we see this sort of hilled area. That works out pretty well. And nice, like we can see sort of like the northwest there, we see sort of the deciduous kind of give way to that pine, and then we see the Laurentian to the direct west give way to that just pine. Very fun. Alright, here we go. How much time we got left? Yeah, we got a little bit of time. We can get through. I'd really like to get through both of these, and then we can zoom out and take a look at everything we've done so far, and then we can probably end the stream there. But let's go ahead and keep on moving. So again, this is just straight forest. This is one of the easier ones to do. It was heavy forest. So swamp, heavy forest, the forest that's our sort of primary, dry forest, plains. And then, of course, we have wetlands and water and all that good stuff. It should be kind of straightforward this time. Alright, so we're just going to go right into it. This light guy. Ooh, and a mountain right off the bat. Kind of on the edge of the coast there. It'll be interesting. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, sorry, that was 3 and then a light one. Light, 1, and then heavy. Oh, sorry. Hold on. Undo. Alright, and then a nice little plane down here. First, so that'll be a swamp. 1. Right, heavy forest. 1. Nice, somewhat heavier forest. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, and then a plane. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then a plane down here. A heavy forest. A deep wood, if you will. 1, 2, 3, and then again another heavy forest. So 1, 2, 3, heavy forest again. 1, and then a swamp. Keep on keeping on. Another swamp. And then 2 left. Alright, a heavy forest. Or no, that's a swamp. And a swamp. Okay. Well, that made it easy. Alright, and the rest of these will just be these guys. Oop. Actually, what I need to do is do the others first. So, you guys have actually recorded our Triforce. There weren't very many of them this time, so that made it very easy. Alright, and then our last one that we're going to take care of is going to be a dry forest. So, 1, 2, and then a forest. Forest. 1, and a plane. 1, 2, and then actually this is going to be a chaparral, isn't it? One, and a plane. A heavier forest, or standard forest, I should say. One, 2, 3. Ooh, and that's water. Nice. Standard forest. Alright, so 2, and then our chaparral again. To a swamp. Makes sense right next to the water. And then a chaparral again. One. Oh, and then a mountain. One, 2, 2, and then our heavy force. First heavy force, right? 1, 2, then heavy force. Another heavy forest. Alright. Up, and then 1 drier than that, so that is a plane. And then what is our very last square, or hex here? It is also going to be Triforce. Okay. Here we go. Now comes the fiddly bits. I try not to do the wrong coloring on things. Keep everything straight. It's a bit tedious, but we have one more over here. So quite the dry forested area, which is good. That's exactly what we wanted. So now we see that it actually kind of gets drier towards the coast over here. Very cool. Alright, well that was what we were looking to sort of get done this evening. I feel like that's a pretty good stopping point. We got quite a bit done. So I do like that. I like that we got quite a bit done. Look over here. Oh yeah, look at all that stuff we filled in. Filled in two full rows? That's pretty good. That's not bad. Now I haven't done the rivers yet, but we will do the rivers. So let's zoom out so you guys can see everything we kind of worked on today. Oh my god. There we go. Alright. Whoa, that's maybe a little bit too far. Alright. So that gives you kind of an idea of what we're working with, right? So that's what we've done so far. And that's pretty good. I mean, that's, probably 60% of the way there? Maybe 65%? Somewhere in there. And quite a bit. Basically got 2 big rows left, which are pretty much equivalent to what we did in the past, few hours. And so we'll knock that out, and then it's pretty much a cakewalk from there on. But just so you guys can kind of see, what we're working off of, this is what we're duplicating here. You can kind of see it. Well, my fat head's in the way, but kind of gives you an idea. It's up there. So yeah, I mean, you can see them side by side, and right, we're getting there. We are getting there. It's turning out pretty well. I'm very much happy with it. I think that everything that we're looking at to replicate there is getting replicated. I'm pretty happy with everything we've done. I'm very excited to finish this out because, again, for those who didn't catch the very beginning of the stream, so this is one continent, and it is the smallest continent. I'm sorry. You can actually zoom out a little bit. Oh, hold on. Hold on. So that's everything. So, we're dealing with the smallest area right now. Is what we're dealing with. So it'll be very interesting to see. Because this is already, even the small continent that I'm not done with has taken me many, many hours. Now I'm perfectly okay with that. I don't have any problems with that. It's, like I said, this is sort of supposed to be a relaxing kind of process. So I'm not upset with it. I like seeing how it goes. Right? Seeing that we're gonna slowly make the changes here. Right? That's the whole point of sort of the world building series. And this is part of that world building series that I've been doing over on the blog raggedfiend.com. So if you're interested in learning about like how this all goes from starting with a perfectly blank, making up a world and everything in it from scratch, from the sort of like top-down macro world building aspect. And I've set a number of sort of games and one-shots in this sort of world already, and been pretty happy with the results. Now it's fun kind to see, how it would all actually fit together in sort of the grand scope. And again, there's 2 more levels of detail as far as sort of like zooming in on the maps from here. But obviously, we don't want to make a world map would have, I don't even know, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of hexes. That's probably not worthwhile. But it is nice to see this. Or at least it wouldn't be worthwhile in sort of having them all as one large map. Now, I could see this is probably as granular as I would get per continent. Is this, and then kind of carve this up into different regions, or maybe I would do them by our different dominions. So we've already broken up the world into a number of sort of different countries, states, kingdoms, empires, whatever you want to call them. If they already have those sort of broken up, so it'll be very interesting to see. And I think if I was going to zoom in and do more granular details, I would do that by those specific regions. or that would make more sense. But this has been a lot of fun. It's been a nice way to sort of like finish out the Sunday, finish out the weekend. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, checking this out and watching along with me. Like I said, it's been a lot of fun. I'm hoping to do some more of this. I'll probably finish most of this off stream unless you guys just really want to see more of it, and we'll see how that goes. But it's been fun. We'll get back. I'm working on editing the videos. I'm actually going to let them. Got a few in the queue. We're going to let those render, and so you should see those going up on the YouTube very, very shortly. So if you're interested in that sort of solo RPG aspect that we've been doing, we just finished session 20 of it this week. So if you're interested in catching up with that and checking out that whole thing, we have a whole playlist over on YouTube, youtube.com/RedDragonFiend. If you haven't already subscribed, check it out, subscribe, there's a whole playlist, and you can watch them, put them on in the background while you're messing around, working on your own campaign stuff, and, see if it's something you like. And we have other stuff as well on both the blog and the YouTube and streaming that we do, so most of it's probably 80%, I'd say, DM focused, and then maybe, fifth of, or 20% of it or so is about a fifth is sort of player focused. We did a stream earlier this week that was player focused, so that was a lot of fun. But that's going to be it for me, and I'll see you guys next time. Again, Thursday we're going to hit that solo RPG stream, so if you're interested in that, make sure you check it out. Otherwise, the best way to get notified is to follow over here on Twitch, and then you'll get the notification whenever we're going live, because we don't really have a set schedule right now, because things are kind of up in the air. But that's it, and I'll see you guys next time. Alright? Bye.